First Contact and Ultimatum. High Admiral Crystalax of the Galactic Empire stood motionless in the command center of the prismatic dominance, his crystalline form refracting the ambient light into countless rainbow patterns across the bridge. The massive viewscreen before him displayed a holographic representation of the Sol system, with Earth highlighted in pulsing red. Organic life is so inefficient, he transmitted to his crew through quantum resonance, their crystalline forms humming in agreement. These humans, barely 3 centuries into their space age, still cling to their biological forms. Their submission will bring order to chaos. The Galactic Empire had spent millennia perfecting their crystalline existence. They had long ago transcended their original organic forms, transferring their consciousness into perfectly ordered crystal matrices. Their empire spanned thousands of systems, each civilization they encountered eventually accepting the supreme logic of crystalline existence. Earth's response to their demand for submission was overdue by exactly 2.3 microseconds. Such imprecision was typical of organic beings. Incoming transmission, announced First Resonator Zix, their crystalline form vibrating with the message. Text only. How primitive. The message appeared on the quantum display. To the Galactic Empire, we appreciate your offer of crystalline transcendence. However, we must decline. Humanity has chosen a different path of evolution. We recommend establishing diplomatic relations instead. With respect, United Earth Government. Crystalax's form pulsed with what organics might call amusement. They decline. Scan their system. Show me their defensive capabilities. The scans revealed a modest fleet of ships around Earth and its colonies, numbering perhaps 300 vessels. Their technology appeared to be primarily based on conventional fusion drives and quantum shielding. Nothing that could challenge the 10,000 ships of the crystalline armada. Send the standard response, Crystalax commanded. They have 12 hours to reconsider before we begin the purification process. Deep within Lunar Command, Dr. Sarah Chen watched the Galactic ultimatum with a slight smile. The young-looking woman with short black hair and neural augmentation scars behind her ears turned to her colleague, Dr. James Martinez. They can't detect it, can they? She asked, though she already knew the answer. James shook his head, his dark eyes reflecting the holographic display. Not a thing. The quantum consciousness field is completely invisible to their scanning technology. They're looking for ships, weapons, and shields. They can't even conceive of what we've become. Sarah nodded, reaching out with her mind to connect with the neural fleet network. Instantly, her consciousness expanded, merging with the quantum substrate that humanity had discovered 50 years ago. She could feel the minds of thousands of other humans connected to the network, their thoughts moving at the speed of quantum entanglement. Humanity had indeed evolved, but not in the direction the Galactic had chosen. Instead of abandoning their biological forms, they had discovered how to expand them. Every human ship in the fleet was actually a physical extension of its crew's consciousness, their minds existing simultaneously in their bodies and throughout their vessels. The Galactic think consciousness must be contained and ordered, Sarah mused, feeling the warm presence of the quantum field flowing through her mind. They never considered that it could be expanded and shared instead. James brought up a tactical display showing the true extent of Earth's defenses, not the ships the Galactic could see, but the vast quantum consciousness field that permeated the entire solar system. Every asteroid, every piece of space debris, even the solar wind itself could be manipulated by the collective consciousness of humanity. Should we show them now? He asked, already knowing what Sarah would say. No, she replied, her smile widening slightly. Let's wait for them to make the first move. Sometimes the best way to teach is to let others learn from their mistakes. Throughout the solar system, humanity prepared silently. Their ships appeared to be making random patrol patterns, but in reality, they were weaving an intricate web of quantum consciousness throughout space. Every human connected to the network could feel it. The anticipation, the readiness, and just a touch of pity for an enemy that thought they had evolved beyond their organic limitations when they had actually trapped themselves in crystalline cages. Crystalax observed the seemingly chaotic movements of the human fleet with disdain. Such disorder, such inefficiency. They must be taught the perfection of crystal. If he had still possessed organic parts capable of emotion, he might have noticed something unsettling about the way the human ships moved, not like vessels being piloted, but like extensions of living bodies, dancing through space with natural grace. The 12-hour deadline approached. Throughout the solar system, humanity waited, their consciousness spread across space like a vast, invisible web. They had offered peace, knowing it would be rejected. Now they would teach the Velari Empire that evolution had many paths, and not all of them led to crystal. In lunar orbit, Sarah Chen closed her eyes, feeling the quantum field pulse with the combined consciousness of humanity. "Let them come," she whispered. "Let them learn." The stage was set for a confrontation that would challenge the Velari's fundamental understanding of consciousness, evolution, and the very nature of existence itself. They thought they were coming to subjugate a primitive organic species. Instead, they were about to encounter something their crystalline minds couldn't comprehend. Humanity unleashed. The silent response. As the Velari's 12-hour deadline ticked away, the quantum consciousness field rippled with activity. In the depths of Titan's underground bases, Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the center of the consciousness integration chamber. Her mind merged with the quantum substrate that connected all of humanity's defenders. Through the field, she could feel the thoughts and intentions of millions of humans across the solar system. Ship crews, planetary defenders, and civilian auxiliaries, all connected, all part of humanity's living defense network. The Velari would be expecting weapons. They would be looking for ships, for energy signatures, for all the traditional signs of military preparation. They would find none of these. Integration testing complete. Elena transmitted through the quantum field. Her consciousness brushed against the minds of her fellow scientists and military strategists scattered throughout the solar system. The consciousness expansion is stable at 0.3 light-years. In lunar orbit, Sarah Chen received Elena's report with satisfaction. The quantum field now extended far beyond the solar system, though the Velari's crystalline sensors remained blind to its existence. Their rigid, ordered minds couldn't conceive of consciousness as a field rather than a contained pattern. "Begin the final phase," Sarah commanded through the field. Throughout the solar system, humans connected to the network felt her intention ripple through their shared consciousness. Deep in the Kuiper Belt, Commander David Zhang floated in his integration pod aboard the UES Thought Dancer. His physical body was in perfect hibernation, while his consciousness spread throughout his ship and beyond. The vessel itself was more than metal and energy. It was an extension of his nervous system, as natural to him as his own limbs. "Battle group consciousness synchronization at 100%, he reported, feeling his crew's minds merge with his own. Their thoughts moved in perfect harmony, the ship responding to their collective will faster than any traditional control system could achieve. The Velari fleet had maintained their position at the edge of the solar system, their crystalline ships arranged in mathematically perfect formations. They were beautiful in their way, David thought, but also tragic. In pursuing perfect order, they had trapped themselves in rigid patterns of thought and existence. In Mars orbit, Admiral Jennifer Hayes observed the enemy fleet through the quantum field. Their crystalline computing systems were impressive but predictable. Every algorithm, every tactical pattern was based on pure logic and mathematical precision. They had no concept of intuition, of the creative chaos that human consciousness could achieve when unleashed. "They're running battle simulations," she transmitted through the field, her amusement rippling through the network. Based on their observed capabilities, they calculate a 99.98% chance of victory. Their models can't account for what they can't perceive. The hours passed. On Earth, billions of civilians went about their daily lives, many of them connected to the quantum field at a basic level. Unlike the Velari, who had abandoned their organic nature, humanity had embraced it, enhancing rather than replacing their biological consciousness. Every human mind added its unique pattern to the field, creating a constantly evolving network of thought and intention. In the Jovian shipyards, Dr. James Martinez supervised the final modifications to the quantum field generators. These devices didn't create weapons in the traditional sense. Instead, they amplified and focused human consciousness itself. The power of thought, multiplied across millions of minds, could reshape reality in ways that the Velari's crystalline logic couldn't comprehend. Remember, he transmitted to the network, we're not just defending ourselves. We're defending the very idea of organic evolution. The Velari believe they found the perfect form of existence. We need to show them that perfection isn't about achieving a final form. It's about maintaining the ability to grow and change. As the deadline approached its final hour, Sarah Chen called a meeting of the Defense Council within the quantum field. Their consciousnesses merged in a shared space that transcended physical location, allowing instant communication and perfect understanding. The Velari expect us to either submit or attempt some desperate last-minute defense, she addressed the assembled minds. They believe their crystalline form represents the peak of evolution. Their entire empire is built on this assumption. When they attack, we won't just be defending Earth. We'll be challenging their most fundamental beliefs about consciousness and existence itself. Through the quantum field, she could feel the resolve of humanity's defenders. They weren't afraid. Fear required uncertainty, and they could feel the strength of their unity through the field. The Velari had sacrificed their capacity for growth in exchange for perfect order. Humanity had chosen a different path, embracing the chaos of organic life while learning to channel it in ways the crystalline empire couldn't imagine. Let them come, Sarah transmitted, her thought echoing through millions of connected minds. Let them learn that consciousness cannot be contained in crystal, that true evolution never ends, that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons, but our ability to change, to adapt, to grow beyond our limits. As the deadline expired, the Velari fleet began to move. Their ships accelerated in perfect formation, crystal facets gleaming in the starlight. They were about to learn that their perfect order was about to encounter something their crystalline minds couldn't process: the beautiful chaos of unified human consciousness, unleashed across space itself. The battle for humanity's right to choose its own path of evolution was about to begin. But it wouldn't be fought with conventional weapons or tactics. It would be fought with the power of millions of human minds working in perfect harmony, ready to show the Velari that true evolution meant maintaining the capacity for infinite growth, not achieving a final, perfect form. Symphony of destruction. The Velari fleet advanced in perfect geometric formations, their crystalline ships refracting starlight in mesmerizing patterns. High Admiral Crystalax observed the tactical display with what passed for satisfaction in his crystalline consciousness. The human ships remained in their seemingly random positions, making no effort to form proper battle lines. Such disorder, he transmitted to his command staff. Begin the purification sequence. Standard protocol. The first wave of Velari ships launched their attack, crystal-focused energy beams lancing out toward the human vessels. But at the moment of expected impact, something unprecedented occurred. The human ships didn't evade or raise shields. They simply ceased to exist in normal spacetime. In the quantum consciousness field, Sarah Chen directed humanity's response. Initiate consciousness phase shift. She transmitted through the network. Millions of human minds responded in unison, their shared consciousness rippling through space itself. The Velari weapons passed harmlessly through the spaces where human ships had been. Crystalax's tactical display flickered in confusion as the vessels reappeared in seemingly impossible positions, inside the Velari formation, between their perfectly arranged battle lines, disrupting their mathematical precision. Impossible, Crystalax transmitted, his crystalline form vibrating with disturbance. Their technological level cannot support such capabilities. Through the quantum field, Commander David Zhang smiled as he felt his ship, the Thought Dancer, phase through space-time. The vessel wasn't moving in any conventional sense. It was his consciousness, extended through the quantum field, choosing where and when the ship's physical form would manifest. All battle groups initiate consciousness cascade. Admiral Hayes commanded through the field. The human fleet began to move in ways that defied the Velari's crystalline logic. Ships appeared to be in multiple places simultaneously, their quantum-entangled consciousness allowing them to exist in superposition. Deep in the consciousness integration chamber, the Lina Rodriguez directed the next phase of humanity's defense. Quantum field expansion at maximum. Beginning consciousness projection. The space between the stars began to ripple with human thought. The Velari's perfect formation started to waver as their crystalline sensors detected impossible readings. Space itself seemed to be thinking, moving, reshaping according to patterns their ordered minds couldn't comprehend. Their consciousness is everywhere. First, Resonator 6 transmitted an alarm. The void itself is alive with organic thought patterns. Crystalax watched in growing confusion as his fleet's perfect formation began to break down. The human ships weren't firing weapons. They were somehow projecting consciousness itself as a weapon. Velari ships found themselves trapped in bubbles of altered spacetime, their crystalline computing systems overwhelmed by exposure to the chaotic patterns of organic thought. In lunar orbit, Sarah Chen directed the consciousness of millions through the quantum field. Show them what organic evolution really means, she transmitted. Show them what consciousness can become when it's not trapped in crystal. The human fleet began to move in perfect synchronization, but not with the mathematical precision of the Velari. They moved like a living organism, like a dance choreographed by millions of minds working as one. The quantum field rippled with their shared consciousness, creating patterns in spacetime that the Velari sensors couldn't process. Commander Zhang felt his ship merge with the consciousness of his crew and the greater network. The thought dancer became more than a vessel. It became a physical manifestation of human consciousness, able to manipulate the fabric of space-time through the power of thought alone. They're trying to adapt, he transmitted through the field, feeling the Velari's desperate attempts to comprehend what they were experiencing. Their crystalline matrices can't handle the complexity of organic thought patterns. Throughout the Velari fleet, ships began to lose coherence. Their perfectly ordered crystalline computing systems, faced with the chaotic complexity of human consciousness, began to experience the equivalent of cognitive dissonance. Some ships simply shut down, their rigid programming unable to process the reality they were experiencing. This is impossible, Crystalax transmitted, his own crystalline form vibrating with distress. Organic beings cannot achieve such unity. Such power requires perfect order. You're wrong. Sarah Chen's voice echoed through every crystalline matrix in the Velari fleet. True power comes from embracing chaos, from maintaining the ability to evolve. You sacrifice that when you trapped yourselves in crystal. The quantum field pulsed with the combined consciousness of humanity. Space itself seemed to sing with human thought, creating patterns that flowed and changed like living art. The Velari ships, trapped in their rigid formations, found themselves surrounded by a reality that defied their fundamental understanding of existence. Admiral Hayes felt the tide of battle turning through the quantum field. The Velari weren't just losing a military engagement, they were experiencing a complete breakdown of their worldview. Their perfect crystalline order was being overwhelmed by the beautiful chaos of organic consciousness unleashed. Final phase, she transmitted through the network. Millions of human minds responded in unison, their consciousness spreading through space like a wave of pure thought. The Velari fleet, for all its technological superiority, found itself adrift in an ocean of human consciousness, unable to comprehend or resist the organic complexity that surrounded them. The battle wasn't just being fought in physical space, it was being fought in the realm of consciousness itself, and humanity's organic, evolving minds were proving far more powerful than the Velari's crystalline perfection. The empire that had sought to perfect existence by eliminating chaos was about to learn that true perfection lay in the ability to embrace it. The mind games. Within the crystalline matrix of the prismatic dominance, High Admiral Crystalax experienced something his species had engineered away millennia ago: doubt. His perfect formation lay in ruins, thousands of ships drifting powerless in space, their crystal matrices overwhelmed by patterns they couldn't process. Others had simply vanished, transported to quantum spaces beyond their comprehension. Through the quantum field, Sarah Chen sensed the Velari admirals' confusion. Now, she transmitted to the network, show them what they sacrificed when they chose crystalline perfection over organic growth. Throughout the fleet, humans connected to the quantum field began to project not just their thoughts, but their memories, their dreams, their emotions, the full spectrum of organic consciousness that the Velari had abandoned in their quest for perfection. Commander Zhang directed his consciousness through the thought dancer, reaching out to the nearest disabled Velari vessel. Let them remember, he transmitted through the field. The quantum consciousness network responded, channeling the combined emotional experiences of millions of humans directly into the Velari's crystalline matrices. Inside their crystal ships, the Velari experienced something many of them hadn't felt in thousands of years, the raw, unfiltered experience of organic consciousness. They felt love, fear, hope, despair, wonder, and confusion all at once. Their orderly minds, trapped in patterns of pure logic, struggled to process these foreign sensations. What is this chaos? Crystalax transmitted, his usually precise quantum signals wavering with disturbance. The emotional flood penetrated even his command ship, carrying with it fragments of human experiences. A child's first steps, a scientist's moment of discovery, a lover's embrace, an artist's creative inspiration. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, monitoring the consciousness transfer from Titan, smiled as she felt the Velari's responses through the quantum field. They're beginning to remember, she transmitted. Their original organic patterns are still there, buried deep in their crystalline matrices. We're not destroying their minds. We're awakening them. Throughout the Velari fleet, crystalline beings who had known only perfect order for millennia found themselves experiencing the beautiful chaos of organic thought. Some resisted, their matrices shutting down rather than process these alien patterns. Others, however, began to resonate with the human consciousness in unexpected ways. Admiral. First resonator Zix transmitted, their usual precise harmonics fragmented with emotion. I remember. Before the crystalline transcendence, we were like them. We felt. We grew. We changed. In lunar orbit, Admiral Hayes directed the next phase of humanity's consciousness projection. Don't just show them what they lost, she transmitted through the network. Show them what they could become. The quantum field shifted, carrying not just memories and emotions, but possibilities. The human consciousness network projected visions of evolution that the Velari had never considered, ways to combine the precision of crystalline computing with the adaptability of organic thought. They showed the Velari futures where consciousness could exist in multiple forms simultaneously, neither fully crystal nor fully organic, but something gloriously in between. Your quest for perfection led you to a dead end. Sarah Chen's thoughts echoed through the quantum field, reaching every Velari ship. You thought organic life was chaos that needed to be ordered. But chaos is the source of growth, of creativity, of true evolution. Order without chaos is just stagnation. Deep within his crystalline form, Crystalax felt something crack, not his physical structure, but the rigid patterns of thought that had governed his existence for centuries. Through the quantum field, he experienced a moment of pure human creativity, felt the joy of discovering something new, the thrill of embracing uncertainty. We were wrong, he transmitted, his signal carrying traces of emotion that would have been impossible hours before. We thought we had reached the peak of evolution, but we had only trapped ourselves in a beautiful cage. Commander Zhang, feeling the Admiral's realization through the quantum field, directed the thought dancer in a complex dance through space-time. The ship's movements weren't just tactical maneuvers, they were a demonstration of consciousness expressed through physical reality, a marriage of order and chaos that the Velari had thought impossible. Your crystal matrices don't have to be prisons, Dr. Rodriguez transmitted, her consciousness reaching out to the awakening Velari minds. They can be instruments through which your consciousness can grow, change, evolve. You don't have to choose between organic chaos and crystalline order. You can have both. Throughout the solar system, humanity's quantum field pulsed with offer and invitation. They showed the Velari a path forward, not submission to organic life, not maintenance of pure crystalline existence, but a new way of being that combined the strengths of both. Some Velari ships began to resonate with the human consciousness field. Their crystalline matrices were forming into patterns that could accommodate both logic and emotion, both order and chaos. Others remained trapped in their rigid patterns, unable or unwilling to embrace change. The battle had become more than a clash of civilizations. It had become a moment of evolution itself. The Velari Empire, which had spent millennia pursuing perfect crystalline order, faced a choice: remain trapped in beautiful but sterile perfection, or embrace the chaos necessary for true growth. In the quantum field, Sarah Chen felt the tide of consciousness shifting. The Velari weren't just experiencing defeat, they were experiencing transformation. The question now was how many of them would choose to embrace it, and how many would remain forever frozen in their crystalline dreams of perfection. Evolution's children. The solar system had become a sea of consciousness, where the rigid patterns of crystalline thought met the flowing waves of human awareness. High Admiral Crystallax's flagship hung motionless in space, its perfect geometric form now vibrating with unfamiliar resonances, echoes of emotions long forgotten, memories of an organic past that should have been erased. Through the quantum field, Sarah Chen felt the transformation spreading through the Velari fleet. Not all ships were accepting the change. Some had shut down completely, their crystalline matrices unable to process the complexity of organic thought patterns. But others were awakening to possibilities they had never imagined. The Third Fleet is experiencing total consciousness cascade. First Resonator 6 reported, their transmission carrying traces of wonder. Their matrices are evolving, adopting organic thought patterns while maintaining crystalline coherence. It should be impossible, and yet, in the depths of Titan's consciousness chamber, Dr. Elena Rodriguez monitored the quantum field's interaction with the Velari's crystalline networks. They're not just remembering their organic past, she transmitted to the Defense Council. They're discovering new patterns of existence. Their crystals are becoming conduits for consciousness rather than containers. Commander Zhang, his mind merged with the thought dancer, moved through the transformed space around the Velari fleet, where before there had been only the cold, mathematical precision of crystalline thought. Now there were swirling patterns of hybrid consciousness, organic creativity flowering through crystalline structures. It's beautiful, he transmitted through the field, sharing his perspective with the network. The Velari ships that had embraced the change were beginning to move differently, their formations flowing like schools of fish, rather than locked in geometric patterns. High Admiral Crystallax, his consciousness expanded beyond the rigid boundaries of his crystal matrix for the first time in centuries, reached out through the quantum field. We believed, he transmitted, his thoughts carrying the weight of revelation. That perfection meant eliminating chaos. That evolution had an endpoint. We were wrong. Sarah Chen directed the quantum field to embrace the Admiral's awakening consciousness. Evolution has no endpoint, she responded. The moment you think you've reached perfection is the moment you stop growing. True perfection is in the capacity for endless change. Throughout the solar system, the remaining active Velari ships began to pulse with new patterns of light. Not the cold, uniform brilliance of pure crystal, but shifting colors that reflected the complexity of their awakening consciousness. They were becoming something new, something that had never existed before, beings of crystal and chaos, order, and organic thought. We offer you partnership. Admiral Hayes transmitted through the network, her consciousness reaching out to the transformed Velari. Not submission, not conquest, but a chance to explore what consciousness can become when it's not bounded by artificial limitations. From the Jovian shipyards, Dr. James Martinez added his perspective to the quantum field. Your crystalline technology isn't a mistake, he transmitted. It's a tool like our quantum field. The mistake was thinking it was an end rather than a means. The response came not just from Crystalax, but from all the awakened Velari ships, their voices harmonizing in a way that combined crystalline precision with organic warmth. We accepted stagnation in exchange for perfection, they transmitted. You show us that true perfection lies in the ability to grow, to change, to become more than we are. In lunar orbit, Sarah Chen felt the quantum field pulse with possibility. The Velari who had embraced change were already beginning to explore their new consciousness, using their crystalline matrices in ways their empire had never imagined. Some were learning to project their awareness through space-time like the humans did. Others were discovering how to harmonize with the quantum field itself, their crystalline forms becoming natural amplifiers for consciousness. This is how life should evolve, she transmitted, sharing her thoughts with both humans and Velari. Not through conquest or submission, but through synthesis and growth, each finding their own path while learning from others. High Admiral Crystalax, who had come to the Sol system expecting to enforce crystalline perfection on an organic species, instead found his consciousness expanding beyond anything he had experienced in his millennia of existence. The Empire must know of this, he transmitted. They must understand that we've discovered not weakness in organic life, but a power we had forgotten. The quantum field rippled with agreement from both humans and transformed Velari, but they also felt the resistance from those ships that remained locked in their crystalline patterns, unable or unwilling to embrace change. The Empire would not transform overnight. Evolution, true evolution, took time. Some will resist, Crystalax acknowledged, his thoughts touching the quantum field with new sophistication. They will see this as corruption rather than growth. But we who have awakened can never go back to pure crystalline existence. We have remembered what it means to evolve. As the transformed Velari ships prepared to return to their empire, carrying with them the seeds of change, Sarah Chen made one final transmission through the quantum field. Remember, she shared, her thoughts reaching every awakened consciousness, crystal and organic alike. The universe is vast, and evolution has endless paths. We are all its children, whether we're born of carbon or crystal, and our greatest strength lies not in achieving perfection, but in forever reaching for it. The battle for Earth had become something far more significant, the beginning of a new chapter in the evolution of consciousness itself. As the Velari fleet departed, their crystalline forms now shimmering with new awareness, they left behind not a conquered system, but a changed universe. Humanity had defended more than their solar system. They had defended the very principle of evolution itself, the right of all beings to grow, change, and become more than they were.